No one at the military base had ever paid attention to the small scars on helicopter mechanic Jessica's hands, until that critical day when Jessica reached for the controls to rescue a Black Hawk under enemy fire and maneuvered the helicopter as if she had been flying it for 20 years, because those scars were the kind only combat pilots could get. Welcome to Rising Life Stories. Before we continue, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from today? And have you ever had a moment when you had to hide your true abilities? The helicopter hangar at Fort Campbell Military Base was filled with mechanical sounds in the early morning hours. UH-60. Black Hawk helicopters, the world's most reliable transport and assault aircraft, stood waiting for meticulous maintenance. Among these metal birds, 34-year-old Jessica Martinez worked quietly. Jessica was average height with an athletic build. Her dark black hair was always kept in a tight bun according to military regulations. She wore minimal makeup and mostly worked in oil-stained coveralls. Her hands bore small but deep scars, cuts and burn marks that were assumed to come from engine work. She had been working as a Black Hawk helicopter technician at Fort Campbell for 6 years. Engine maintenance, rotor systems, avionics. She knew everything perfectly. She was hardworking, quiet, never caused problems. Her male colleagues respected her, but only saw her as a skilled technician. "Oh, Martinez," Hangar Chief Roberts called out. "Black Hawk 237 has vibration in the gearbox. Can you check it?" Jessica looked up and said, "Roger, Chief. Checking it now." Jessica's gearbox knowledge was legendary. She could diagnose complex mechanical problems within hours. When she entered the helicopter's cockpit, Jessica automatically reviewed all flight controls, but not just with a mechanic's eye. Her eyes also moved with a pilot's perspective: collective, cyclic, anti-torque pedals, instrument panel. She knew it all intimately because Jessica looked at the scars on her hands. These scars didn't come from engine work. They came from years of combat flying, emergency landings, controlling Black Hawks under hostile fire. But for 6 years, no one had known this. Jessica's quarters were small but functional, like other enlisted personnel on base. On the wall were civilian certificates, mechanical achievement awards, but never anything pilot-related. But in the hidden compartment of Jessica's footlocker were items no one saw: combat flight helmet, worn flight gloves, and most importantly, faded photographs. In Afghanistan, in Iraq, Jessica in desert camouflage in the pilot seat of a Black Hawk. On the back of the photographs were stamps: 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, Special Operations Aviation Regiment, Combat Flight Operations, Classified, Operation Enduring Freedom, Flight Lead. Jessica had served as a combat pilot with the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment Night Stalkers for 14 years, from 2003 to 2017. She had flown the most dangerous missions in Afghanistan, Iraq, and classified locations. In 2017, following controversial new policy implementation, restrictions were imposed for women combat pilots. Jessica chose quiet transition instead of fighting. She chose to continue as a mechanic, leaving flying in the background. For 6 years she had been working here, repairing helicopters, but no one knew her real identity. When her phone rang, Jessica quickly put the photos in the footlocker. It was Chief Roberts calling. "Martinez, we have an emergency situation. Black Hawk down in combat zone, crew extraction needed. Available pilots limited. Prep 247 for immediate takeoff." Jessica's heart rate increased. Black Hawk down in combat zone. This was every pilot's worst nightmare. "Chief, which area?" Jessica asked, already starting to take off her coveralls. "Grid Victor 7, approximately 20 clicks east. Enemy activity confirmed. SAM threats possible. Crew, Pilot Captain Williams, Co-Pilot Lieutenant Chen, both injured, but alive." Jessica's trained mind automatically went into mission planning mode. Grid Victor 7, mountainous terrain, hostile territory, limited landing zones, extract routes, threat assessment, fuel calculations. "Chief, who are the available pilots?" "Major Stevens is busy with another mission. Captain Rodriguez is on medical leave. You prep 247, we'll find a backup pilot." Jessica hesitated. Was it time to reveal the truth she had hidden for 6 years? The tension in the hangar was palpable. Black Hawk 247 was being prepped for immediate takeoff, but the pilot shortage was critical. Available experienced pilots were either deployed or unavailable. "Chief," Sergeant Thompson from Flight Ops came running. "We couldn't find a backup pilot. Closest available pilot is 2 hours away." Chief Roberts replied with frustration, "Williams and Chen are bleeding out there. We can't wait 2 hours." Jessica was listening to the conversation while doing the pre-flight check on Black Hawk 247. Every system diagnostic, every mechanical verification, perfect condition. But there was no pilot. "Chief," Jessica quietly approached. "I can fly it." Roberts looked confused. "Martinez, you're a mechanic flying a Black Hawk." "Chief, I'm a qualified pilot," Jessica interrupted, her voice steady but firm. 160th SOAR, 14 years combat experience." Sudden silence fell in the hangar. Other mechanics, flight crews, everyone turned to Jessica. "What?" Roberts' jaw dropped. "Master Sergeant Jessica Iron Angel Martinez, 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, retired 6 years ago." Roberts' eyes widened. 160th SOAR Night Stalkers, the most elite helicopter unit in the U.S. military. "Iron Angel?" Sergeant Thompson whispered. Are you that pilot? The Kandahar extraction in Afghanistan?" "Thompson, we don't have time to discuss this now," Jessica spoke firmly. "Williams and Chen need immediate extraction. I can do it." Roberts experienced hesitation. Regulations, protocols. But in emergency situations, rules sometimes had to be bent. "Martinez, Jessica, are you sure? Combat zone, hostile fire." In Jessica's eyes was the confidence of 14 years of combat experience. "Chief, this is exactly my area. Black Hawk down extraction, hostile territory navigation, emergency medical evacuation. I've done these hundreds of times." Roberts made his decision. "Get in that bird, Martinez. Bring our people home." Jessica's transformation was immediate. Instead of mechanic coveralls, she put on a flight suit, wore a combat helmet, and most importantly, switched to a pilot mindset. Flight gear check, NVGs, radio systems, weapon systems familiarization, mission planning. Every movement was confident, professional, automatic. "Martinez," Chief Roberts approached, still processing the revelation. "Backup crew?" "I can fly solo, but a crew chief would be helpful." "For medical assist?" "Sergeant Davis," Roberts called to the young medic, "you're going with Jessica." Davis, 22 years old, was nervous. "Chief, I've never been to a combat zone." "Davis," Jessica spoke with a calm but commanding voice, "you're on my crew. I'll bring you back safe. Trust me." Davis nodded, impressed by Jessica's confidence. Approaching Black Hawk 247, Jessica inspected the aircraft one last time. But no longer from a mechanic's perspective, from a pilot's perspective. Weight distribution, fuel load, weather conditions, threat assessment. When she sat in the cockpit for the first time in 6 years, Jessica felt like she had come home. Her hands automatically went to the correct positions, muscle memory activated. "Tower, this is Black Hawk 247, requesting immediate takeoff clearance for combat SAR mission. 247, cleared for takeoff. Godspeed." As the rotor blades spun up, Jessica took a deep breath. Iron Angel was returning. Black Hawk 247 was flying at low altitude over the mountains. Jessica expertly navigated the terrain while avoiding radar detection and maintaining fuel efficiency. "Davis," Jessica spoke on the intercom, "combat zone procedures briefing. If we make enemy contact, you stay in the medical bay. I'll make evasive maneuvers. Trust the aircraft, trust me." "Roger," Davis replied, taking reassurance from Jessica's calm professionalism. Approaching Grid Victor 7, Jessica assessed the situation. Downed Black Hawk on rocky terrain, approximately 200 meters from hostile positions. Smoke rising, but no fire. Good sign. 247, this is ground control, came the crackling radio. Enemy activity confirmed, small arms fire intermittent, LZ hot. Jessica's training kicked in, hot LZ extraction, wounded crew rescue under hostile fire. This was exactly the mission she had done with 160th SOAR. Ground control, 247 inbound for extract. Request suppression fire on grid 2, 34-567. Roger 247, suppression fire commencing. Jessica put the aircraft into tactical approach, nap of the earth flying, terrain masking, minimal exposure time. Her movements were surgical, precise. The moment she could see the downed crew, Jessica identified the perfect landing spot, narrow, rocky, but feasible. Davis, prep for fast extract, 60 seconds on ground max. Roger. Jessica put the Black Hawk into an almost vertical descent, using expert auto-rotation technique to minimize noise signature. The landing gear touched the rocky ground at exactly the calculated spot. "Go, go, go!" Jessica shouted. Davis jumped out with the medkit and ran to the injured crew. Captain Williams was unconscious. Lieutenant Chen was conscious, but had a severe leg injury. When enemy fire began, Jessica immediately went into defensive position. She positioned the aircraft at a slight angle, using the rotor disc as armor to provide crew protection. "Taking fire! Taking fire!" Davis called on the radio. Jessica calmly replied, "Continue extraction. I'm providing cover." At this moment, Jessica's 14 years of combat experience completely took over. Enemy fire pattern analysis, threat direction assessment, escape route planning. Her mind worked like a tactical computer. "Davis, 30 seconds!" As Williams and Chen were loaded into the aircraft, enemy fire intensified. Jessica kept the aircraft in constant small movements to avoid being a predictable target. "All aboard!" Davis called. Jessica immediately went into takeoff, but enemy fire was too intense. Normal takeoff was impossible. At that moment, Jessica fully engaged her combat pilot instincts. She tilted the aircraft backward, used terrain as a mask, then escaped the enemy fire zone with sudden forward acceleration. The maneuver was so expert that Davis could barely believe it. "How did you?" Davis asked in amazement. "Davis, 14 years of practice," Jessica simply replied. After the safe return to Fort Campbell, news about Jessica's identity had spread rapidly. The information that Iron Angel had worked as a mechanic for 6 years created shockwaves throughout the entire base. When the medical team took Williams and Chen into immediate care, both were in stable condition. The mission was a complete success. Chief Roberts approached Jessica. Master Sergeant, I apologize. For 6 years, I didn't recognize your true capabilities." "Chief," Jessica interrupted, "I made the choice to hide. You don't need to blame yourself." "But why?" "You were a legendary pilot. Iron Angel's reputation. Why give it up for mechanic work?" Jessica answered thoughtfully. "Chief, policy changes in 2017 brought restrictions for women combat pilots. I could have fought the system, but I chose peaceful transition. Mechanic work, it kept me close to aircraft, close to flying, without politics." When Base Commander Colonel Harrison heard the news, he immediately requested a meeting with Jessica. "Master Sergeant Martinez," the colonel spoke respectfully, "I reviewed your service record. Your achievements at 160th SOAR are incredible. Why didn't you inform us about your background?" "Sir, I was content with my current position, serving in a different capacity. But the skills you displayed in this rescue mission, we need pilots like you." Jessica paused. After 6 years, recognition as a pilot. A few days later, Jessica had been officially reinstated to pilot status, but there was an interesting twist. She was offered a dual role as both pilot and maintenance expert. "This is unprecedented," Colonel Harrison explained. "You can both fly and maintain aircraft, double value." Jessica accepted the position. She was no longer just Iron Angel, but also a technical expert. In her new role, Jessica began teaching advanced flying techniques to young pilots. Combining pilot expertise with mechanical knowledge, she provided a unique perspective. "Master Sergeant," asked young pilot Lieutenant Morrison, "how do you know exactly when there's going to be a problem in the engine?" Jessica smiled. "Morrison, I've known these engines inside out for 6 years. As a pilot, mechanical intimacy is crucial. We need to listen to what the aircraft is telling us." Davis, after the rescue mission, had become greatly attached to Jessica. "Master Sergeant, how did you do that maneuver that day? The backward tilt, then forward escape?" "Davis, that's called tactical egress under fire, a 160th SOAR signature move, but you can't do it unless you know the aircraft's limits intimately." Jessica's unique position had created a new dynamic on base. Pilots asked her technical questions. Mechanics were curious about advanced flying techniques. "Jessica," Chief Roberts asked one day, "do you regret it? Hiding your capabilities for 6 years?" Jessica, while inspecting a Black Hawk engine, replied thoughtfully, "Chief, I learned that sometimes stepping back allows you to step forward differently. Mechanical knowledge made me a better pilot. Pilot experience made me a better mechanic. And now? Now I can combine the best of both worlds." Other women personnel on base began to see Jessica as a role model. She proved that limitations are often self-imposed and real capability can emerge when opportunity is found. Young female mechanic Sarah Jenkins approached Jessica. "Master Sergeant, I want to be a pilot, but everyone says women aren't fit for combat." Jessica looked directly at Sarah. "Jenkins, let me tell you something. Capability isn't about gender, it's about training and determination. If you're qualified and can complete the mission, no one cares about your gender in the combat zone." A year later, Jessica had become a legend at Fort Campbell. But more importantly, she'd become a bridge between different specialties. On Jessica's office walls were now photos from both lives, old photos from 160th SOAR combat missions and new achievements at Fort Campbell. "Jessica," Colonel Harrison spoke during the annual review, "your contribution is measurable. The pilot training program has improved, maintenance efficiency has increased, and most importantly, base morale has significantly boosted." "Sir, I simply shared available expertise." And that's exactly what great leaders do. That evening, as Jessica worked alone in the hangar, she sat in the Black Hawk's cockpit. She was no longer hiding her identity. Iron Angel and Master Mechanic were the same person. When her hands touched the controls, Jessica realized, sometimes our greatest strength comes not from choosing one path, but from integrating multiple paths. Her phone rang. Emergency call. Another rescue mission. Jessica smiled and picked up her helmet. Iron Angel was ready, and this time everyone knew exactly who she was. Jessica Martinez's story shows that sometimes we must hide our light to find it again in a brighter form. When her mechanical expertise was combined with pilot skills, it created an unbeatable combination, and the scars on her hands were no longer a reminder of shame, but proof of expertise. Every scar, every experience had made her a stronger pilot and better mechanic. If this story made you feel something, share with us in the comments. Have you ever had a moment when you had to hide your true abilities? And if you think stories like this deserve to be told, don't forget to share this video. At Rising Life Stories, we believe that true courage often lives in the willingness to serve in different forms, and sometimes our greatest mission comes from combining our different skills. Hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join our growing community discovering extraordinary service stories. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.